Under a bright Los Angeles morning sky, Brielle Carter, a 32-year-old self-made billionaire, adjusted the cufflinks of her sleek burgundy blazer. Her rise in the renewable energy sector had been meteoric, and today's task was straightforward: a critical meeting in Chicago to seal a major partnership. But life had taught Brielle that even the simplest missions could be fraught with unexpected hurdles. As she approached her private jet parked on the tarmac, a knot of uniformed crew members caught her eye. Their sidelong glances and muted whispers were far from welcoming. At the forefront was Captain Robert Mitchell, a man whose rigid demeanor spoke volumes. His scrutinizing gaze landed on Brielle, revealing a skepticism he barely tried to mask. When she reached the base of the jet stairs, he stepped forward, forcing a tight smile. "Good morning, ma'am," he began, his tone steeped in condescension. "This jet is reserved for high-priority clients. Are you sure you're in the right place?" Brielle raised an eyebrow, her sharp, steady gaze betraying none of the irritation building inside her. "Quite sure," she replied coolly. "This is my aircraft." Captain Mitchell hesitated, a flicker of disbelief crossing his face. "I'll need to confirm that," he said, gesturing vaguely toward the terminal. "In the meantime, perhaps you'd be more comfortable waiting inside." Beside her, Liam, Brielle's steadfast executive assistant, clenched his jaw. Before he could interject, Brielle placed a calming hand on his arm. Without another word, she pivoted and strode toward the terminal lounge. Her strides were purposeful, each one a silent rebuttal to the thinly veiled prejudice she had encountered countless times before. Inside the opulent lounge, Brielle sank into a cream leather armchair, its luxury doing little to soothe the sting of the insult. The crystal light fixtures and panoramic view of the runway only underscored the absurdity of the moment. Calmly, she pulled out her phone and dialed her legal team. In a measured tone, she detailed the situation, outlining a plan of action that promised swift accountability. Liam, meanwhile, stood near the expansive windows, his frustration palpable as he watched the crew outside. Their mocking gestures and exaggerated laughter painted a clear picture of their arrogance. Liam glanced back at Brielle, her unflappable demeanor only deepening his respect for her. Minutes stretched into an hour before Captain Mitchell reappeared in the lounge. His smug expression hadn't wavered. "I'm afraid I couldn't reach the owner of this jet," he announced, his tone dripping with insincerity. Brielle rose slowly, her every movement deliberate and composed. "Perfect," she said with an icy smile. "That means I can handle this directly." With Liam at her side, she walked past the captain, her heels echoing confidently against the marble floor. Back at the aircraft, Brielle retrieved her ownership documents and handed them over with a calm authority. The crew's demeanor shifted instantly, confidence replaced by shock. Captain Mitchell's face flushed as he fumbled for words. This jet is yours?" "Correct," Brielle replied, her tone steady. "And as of now, your services are no longer required. Collect your belongings and leave." Stunned, the crew disbanded, their earlier bravado reduced to silence. Watching them depart, Brielle allowed herself a brief moment of satisfaction. But she wasn't done. She reached for her phone again, this time calling her communications team. Within hours, footage of the incident circulated online, sparking outrage and widespread discussion about prejudice in private aviation. The story gained traction, with hashtags like #OwnTheSkies and #EqualFlight trending globally. Public outcry demanded accountability, and Brielle, never one to shy from a platform, seized the moment. At a press conference days later, she stood before a sea of cameras and reporters. "This isn't just my story," she began, her voice clear and impassioned. "Bias and discrimination are deeply ingrained in our systems. No matter your achievements, you're never immune. But together, we can dismantle these barriers." Her words ignited a movement. Brielle soon launched an initiative, Skyward Horizons, designed to combat inequities in aviation. The program prioritized scholarships for underrepresented groups in flight training, diversity-focused hiring practices, and comprehensive training on cultural sensitivity for industry professionals. The initiative received overwhelming support, with applications pouring in from aspiring aviators and endorsements from industry leaders. Even some of the crew members from that fateful day expressed regret and sought opportunities to join the program. Brielle welcomed them, believing change required participation from all sides. As for Captain Mitchell, his career was irreparably damaged, becoming a stark example of the consequences of prejudice. The aviation industry took note, implementing reforms influenced by Skyward Horizons. Months later, on a flight overseen by her new team, Brielle gazed out at the vibrant expanse of sky, her jet piloted by a diverse and enthusiastic crew. The horizon was no longer just a destination. It was a symbol of progress, a testament to resilience, and proof that no barrier is insurmountable. As the jet soared through the endless sky, Brielle Carter leaned back in her plush seat, letting the hum of the engines serve as a comforting rhythm. She gazed out of the window, her reflection superimposed on the view of soft clouds and a limitless horizon. The journey wasn't merely physical. It symbolized a flight toward progress, justice, and the dismantling of barriers that had long gone unchallenged. Skyward Horizons had taken off faster than Brielle could have imagined, but she knew its success was not hers alone. It was powered by a collective movement of people who believed in a better future, aspiring pilots, industry veterans, and everyday citizens who saw their struggles reflected in her story. Letters and messages poured in daily, each one a testament to the lives being changed. A young girl from Detroit who dreamed of becoming an aerospace engineer. A former airline steward eager to create safer, more inclusive environments. Brielle read each one, her heart swelling with pride and determination. The press frenzy had died down, but the conversation about equity in aviation continued to reverberate. Airlines began adopting policies inspired by Skyward Horizons, from mandating implicit bias training to creating mentorship opportunities for underrepresented employees. Brielle's voice had become a catalyst for systemic change, but she was quick to credit the many voices that joined hers, amplifying the cause and ensuring it could not be ignored. As the aircraft began its descent into Chicago, Brielle reflected on the day she had been challenged on her own tarmac, a day meant to diminish her, but that had instead propelled her into something greater. She thought of Captain Robert Mitchell and his crew, their prejudices exposed for the world to see. While their downfall was a stark reminder of the consequences of bias, Brielle's focus had never been on retribution. Her goal had always been transformation. Her assistant Liam approached, holding a tablet. "We just received confirmation. The new mentorship program has been approved by 3 major airlines," he said with an excited grin. "And CNN wants to cover the story." Brielle nodded, smiling warmly. "Good. The more visibility, the better. This isn't just about aviation. It's about every industry, every workplace, every community." The jet touched down smoothly, the wheels skimming the runway as Brielle's vision for a fairer world seemed to take root. She was greeted by a crowd of supporters at the private terminal, diverse, energized, and united in their mission. As she stepped off the plane, the cheers that met her were not just for her accomplishments, but for the shared hope she represented. Brielle raised her hand in a wave, her gaze sweeping across the faces of those who had joined her in this fight. In that moment, she understood, breaking barriers wasn't just about removing obstacles. It was about clearing paths for others to soar. As she walked forward, the horizon ahead seemed brighter than ever, filled with the promise of endless possibility.